Hello, customer service. How can I help?
Hi, I'm really hoping you can help me. So I've got this Happy New Year,
Yeah.
and I wasn't given the receipt, and I recognize the situation I'm in. I'm really hoping I can return it. If there's anything you can do to help to let me return it, because
Yeah.
I'm really not sold on it.
I mean, it looks like it's been used.
I mean, like a day, maybe two, has been used. Like that's like less than 1%. Like
Right.
it's barely used.
It looks like it's got a rising dictatorship or two in it as well.
Well, I mean that's why I'm trying to return it. I'm not in the mood for one of these, honestly.
You got any way of proving that it was bought from here?
I mean, there's not many places on the planet that sell a New Year.
I can give you store credit for 50% off it.
Honestly, I'll take it. I just don't want to have it in my hands. It's your problem now.
Oh god! No, it's everywhere!
See you in 2024.
Ah! Ah! Greetings, strangers, queer and pleasant. I'm not Laura Kate Magnet Dale.
And I'm not Jane Eris Magnetdale, and welcome to another episode of Queer and Pleasant Strangers. It's a podcast where two queer trans women, that's us, we're wives, we're wifey types. We talk about the things we've consumed media-wise recently, and have a bit of a catch-up and do silly voices and try and make each other have a bit of a giggle.
Yeah.
It's just a nice little weekly catch-up we do in front of a microphone
Yeah.
that people listen to.
Happy Nude Quiz.
Yeah, we did it! It's
did.
another year.
We gayed at each other successfully
We
for another whole
we
year.
did. I got some stuff coming up this year. You don't even know. Well, I mean, you know,
I know.
but they don't even know.
And there's also some stuff coming up this year that they do know, and soon, and they can enjoy that too.
Yeah, gosh, we are within 6 weeks of the release of Who Hunts the Whale.
Yeah.
That's going to imminently be happening.
It all started here. If you were here whenever we did the first episode with
several years ago,
with what was it at the time? It was like Electronic
it's
Active Soft.
Electronic Actor Softworks.
It was Electronic Active Soft, then Active Softworks,
Yeah.
then Supremacy Software.
Indeed.
Because the lawyers said no.
Yes. For anyone who reads that book, it's definitely not about Electronic Actor Softworks. It's about Supremacy Software. They're very different.
Yep, very different.
Oh, what have you been playing recently?
Oh my goodness, well, we've got 2 weeks because
Yes.
we had a week off to have a lie
we
down.
took some festive time off,
Yeah.
so we're going to try and crack through a bunch of games we've played.
I played a bunch more Chained Echoes.
How's that been going?
Can't remember.
Have you finished it?
No.
It continues to be war drama.
It continues to be huge war drama and massive changes every chapter. There was something about past lives and weirdness, and I'm really enjoying it. I need to get back. I had a bit of a rest while we were doing social gaming stuff. So, yep, more of that. What have you had, you?
Well, I'm going to crack through 6 games in quick succession.
Oh, damn.
Because since we last recorded this, I believe, now have a Playdate.
You have the little cranky friend.
It's a little yellow gaming handheld that has a crank on the side of it. And
every Monday it goes pink, pink, pink.
And some new games, like 2 new little games show on it up on it every week for I think like 3 months or so.
Ooh.
But yeah, the basic like sales pitch of this at the time, like a year and a half, 2 years ago, was they wanted to get them out to everyone at around the same time, so that it could be some kind of communal event where every Monday everyone would get the same set of games, and like, you'd have a week to talk about the games everyone got that week.
Yeah.
COVID and supply chain issues and broken batteries caused a lot of problems and delays and staggered release. But I have enjoyed the experience I've had where I've been playing a bunch of little games that no one else is really playing that week, and it's just... It feels like, oh, these are special little treats just for me that I get to experience, and they're little surprises. It's the perfect amount of new games to get every week that I can give each one a decent chunk of play, and not feel like I'm being like, oh, you've given me too many things and I'm not playing any of them.
Yeah.
But also that there's always something new to be playing around with. So I'm gonna quickly run through like the 6 games I currently have from the first wave. There's Whitewater Wipeout, which is a score-based 3 lives surfing game that entirely uses the crank for gameplay.
Mm-hmm.
It is basically angle your surfboard so that it's like picking up speed, going back up the waves, and when you get in the air, do as many spins as you reckon you can get away with and still have yourself positioned to like re-hit the wave properly and not crash out on landing. And it is a game of trying to manage momentum so that you can get as big a jump as possible, get as many spins in, not fumble the landing, keep going.
I imagine that's much easier with a crank because you just have, where the crank is to be the correct angle to go down.
Honestly, yes. The thing is getting a sense of the momentum because you can spin really hecking fast in the air. And there is that real temptation to try and get one more rotation or one more partial rotation in. And catching yourself and realising I don't have time for another spin and accurately getting yourself to that point on the crank wheel to land it properly is a challenge of itself. It is a very simple game, but it's real fun for such a simple concept.
So I suppose the important question there is, does it feel sturdy enough to be really fucking going for it?
Yes, it does. This crank is so nice. I don't know what they've done with it. There is some magnets involved somewhere. Like, it magnetizes into its little, like, hiding hole when it's not in use and it sort of flips out. It feels real sturdy. I've never felt like there is any degree of not being sturdy in its socket.
Not worried about yanking it?
Yeah, and it moves so smoothly. Like, for a thing that was, like, largely sold on its crank being its unique interface for interfacing with the device, they clearly put the work in to make that crank feel premium.
Yeah.
Much the same as, like, a lot of the operating system on it feels really, like, really well thought through and very premium, like, a lot of work went into it. When you wake it up from sleep, you press the power button twice, and its two eyes wake up. With each press, it's like, oh, I'm awake. And when your new games show up, they're in a little present, and you click on them, and it does a big flourish as it unwraps the game.
Yay.
Lots of, like, really cute, really nice aspects of it that feel premium, which is really nice for something like this.
The first startup of it is really cute as well, when you're, like, testing all the buttons and stuff.
Yeah, there's a lot of personality to it. So the other game I got on my first week was much less focused on the crank, but much more substantial of a game. Casual Birder.
Was this the Pokemon for birds?
Yeah, it's Pokemon Snap, but for birds.
Right.
You move to a new town, and bird photography is really popular in this town, and there are some local bullies that keep, like, bullying people and winning the bird photography competition.
Boo!
And you're going to try and, like, essentially with your Pokédex and your smartphone camera, you're going to try and be the new bird photography champion in town. You do this by talking to NPCs who will have quests for you to be like, hey, go get a photo of this kind of bird. You will sometimes get rewarded with items that might be things like some bird seed that you can use to lure a certain kind of bird out of its tree, or things like that. Different birds behave in different ways, and you have different challenges to sort of work out how to photograph them. The crank is used sort of sparingly but nicely. It manages your inventory, so rather than having to pause to go to an inventory screen, you just rotate the crank and a little sort of dial turns and new items are selected. It works surprisingly well as like a very casual... It reminds me of like when PlayStation Vita games would use the back touch panel on the Vita as a very casual like additional thing, not like something too over the top. The other use is for... zooming and focusing on your camera so that you can sort of get to the right focal length to take the shot.
Yeah.
It's simple things, but it's an amusingly written, a fairly in-depth game with a good amount of birds to go find. It feels like something to get your teeth sunk into on the first week you've got the device. Second batch, I'm going to get through these all in one go, try and do these real quick. Second batch, there was one game called Boogie Loops in the second week that like really didn't grab me. It is essentially like a Mario Paint-esque music creation software.
Oh, okay, yeah, I remember you playing with this.
Click on things on the lines to place notes, essentially. There's a little more to it, but it's not that much more in-depth than, say, Mario Paint was.
And then it's, I guess, a music box?
Yeah, kind of, and there's little dancing animals.
Sweet.
It's kind of sweet, but also, like, the whole time I was experimenting with it, I was like, it's not substantial enough for me to ever want to use it over any other basic music creation program.
Including the online version of Mario Paint.
Yeah, exactly. I'm like, when it's a nice novelty to have on there, but it's also like, I'm probably never going to come back to this beyond the once or twice I played around with it on Release Week.
It does make me think what could be a fun idea that takes like a similar thing but does it slightly differently without giving the impression of a lack of fulfillment. You could have like somebody who is making music boxes, and like different people want different kinds of tunes, and maybe you fashion different things.
Something
for
like
people.
that would be really fun. It feels like that's what it's missing, is some kind of context to its simple mechanics to make there be a reason outside of just creating very short, very simple tunes.
You've got 16 notes.
Yeah. The other game that week was a lot more interesting and one that I've gotten really into mechanically, called Kranken's Time Travel Adventure.
Oh, I remember you talking about this with the jumping over the thing and sniffing the flower. And...
So you are a robot that is perpetually late for a date. You keep waking up a little bit late, you're running late, you've got to get to where your date is as quickly as you can to not get in trouble for being late. And the gimmick is that you're using the crank to move forward and backward. I was going to say through time. I think the better way to describe it is you're moving forward and backward through your own walk
Timeline.
cycle and animation.
Yeah.
Through your own movement animation. Time keeps moving forward even if you're moving yourself backwards through your animation. Other elements in the world will keep moving even when you're rewinding yourself in your animation. You're basically deciding where in your walk cycle to be at various moments.
You're controlling the flow of your own personal time.
Yeah, and the way that sort of manifests as a puzzle is that there'll be lots of obstacles between you and this date that will be things like, there is a butterfly flying at you at a certain height, and if you run into it, the date's going to be really upset that you injured a butterfly. So what you need to do maybe is find a flower and bend down to smell the flower, and then stay in that bit of the animation where you're bent down so the butterfly can go over you. Yeah. Or there's a pig running sort of on ground level, and there's a coffee table where you sort of stop to sit and sip a cup of coffee. But as you're leaving that animation, you sort of climb up on the seat and up on the table and sort of leap across it. And using that moment you're in the air to not be hit by the pig that's coming. And it's a lot of, like, very creative examples of things that impact your movement animation in different ways, and different variations of threats, and working out how to maneuver yourself forward and backward as quickly as you can into the right positions to then get where you're going.
And is there a decent amount of buffering with, like, are you, for example, drinking that drink for a couple of frames, so you don't have to be like... You're going, I suppose, fairly quickly to get into position, but you're not going to overshoot it too easily?
Most of the key positions are not particularly frame perfect.
Right.
They are like... You are largely going to get to like a held position that's fairly easy to land in. There are some exceptions, and there are some that will get further later. Like, there's one early on I had a little... that, like... A lot of the time, you're just like, I'm going to sprint as fast as I can to that flower and get into the very big window of I'm bent down with the flower. Sometimes you're like, I'm up on this monkey bar, I'm only going to be in the air at this angle for like a window of frames, so I'll crank really fast to get toward that and then start cranking slowly to get myself in like to tweak the position.
Yeah.
It is a really good game that makes really smart use of that crank as its like primary interaction.
It was one of the one you seem to A, play the longest, and B, be talking to other people about most.
Yeah, and I will get to, I think the two games I got this week, I've not had as much time to play them because I've been busy writing.
And they only turned up yesterday.
Yeah, they only turned up yesterday. I think they're going to be in the category with Kranken's Time Travel Adventure of ones that like I'm probably going to play a lot more regularly. So there's a really cute game called Pick Pack Pup.
Okay.
It only really uses the crank for sort of scrolling through narrative comic cutscenes.
Right.
But it is generally a tile matching game in the vein of your sort of like match 3 type things.
Like Zookeeper.
Yeah, that kind of thing. There is no time limit on, at least in the early levels where I've been so far. It's a little bit more laid back. But you're basically trying to package bunches of items together to pack up into packaging and then all in one go send off to customers. You are working in a fulfillment centre.
And can beggars be juicers?
So yeah, it is a fairly laid-back, like, puzzle-based, connect 3 or more of the same thing together and it'll become a package, but it won't automatically be fired off screen. So you will have to think about where to make that batch of things so that you're not closing yourself off from being able to maneuver other things still to make other packages.
Right.
The more packages you make at once and send off together, you get combos.
Okay.
So you are incentived to be thinking about, not only can I connect, say, 3 things together, but can I connect 3 things together in a way that still leaves me room to maneuver the other things to their matching pairs, and try and send, like, as close as possible to a whole screen worth of packages at once.
Interesting.
Each level has its own, like, little gimmick or challenge that is worth bonus points. There'll be something like, try and do a package send where every item on the bottom row is in a package when you do the send, or this mission is entirely about bananas. Don't worry about anything else, you just need to package and send 100 bananas as quick as you can. It's very cute, it's very charming, it's very laid back, and it's just sit around organising things, and I enjoy it a lot.
Yeah.
The other one was called Lost Your Marbles.
Marble.
It's got more of a narrative context to it, despite having a very silly crank-based gameplay loop. You have accidentally scrambled your brain a little bit. You are someone who got an internship at some science lab run by a cat. I believe. Is Marbles is it Professor Marbles? It might be. Who has invented this headset that is meant to unlock amazing mental capacity.
This is your limitless pill?
Not quite. The way it's sort of presented is, it's not telling you unlocking your ability to know things you don't already know,
right,
but it is unlocking your ability to disregard things that are probably not correct and whittle down a very accurate answer through process of elimination.
Okay.
So it's sort of presented as this, like, I got asked a very difficult question with a very difficult number as an answer. Oh, how did I know that? It's like, okay, well, this thing basically just helped you logic away many, many unreasonable answers. And then your dog happens to see Professor Cat, knocks over some things, headset is damaged.
Oh no.
And what is now happening is that you're going through this little narrative of trying to find your missing dog, but every time you have to make a decision, you have this sort of, like, marble tilting game.
Okay.
You are only using the bottom half of the range of movement of the crank to tilt a space left and right, rolling a marble around.
Right.
And there are lots of ideas in there that are possible answers to the situation you're in, some of which are more sensible and some of which are very silly.
Right.
The silly answers are easier to get, the sensible answers are harder to get to.
Right.
And you are trying to manipulate this marble through spaces to try and get to the sensible good answer. And, like, it's not a fail-state. If you get one of the silly answers, that isn't, or at least as I've seen so far, isn't a fail-state. It just branches the narrative in silly ways.
Okay.
But it is a game about, like, manipulating a marble that has really nice momentum and controls very well with this, like, smooth way of tilting it, to choose how the plot plays out. A good example, I was trying to make missing posters for my dog that had gone missing. The first level I managed to do pretty well, which was like, what kind of cardstock should we use for the missing posters? I managed to avoid chewing gum wrapper, which is one of the things we might have produced them on. I got some high quality cardstock.
Okay.
But then, next choice was, which photo of your dog should we use? And I did not manage to get one of the more sensible answers. A photo of the dog's butthole is the one that's on all the missing posters.
Okay. Have you seen this butthole?
Have you seen this butthole?
Maybe another dog will help you find it.
Right.
Dogs are good at finding other bats.
It's a silly little narrative with a very satisfying mechanic that I appreciate, not, at least what I've seen so far, not railroading you because you got a silly answer. It's like, it's like, hey, the challenge is to try and get something good and sensible, but if you don't, well, don't worry, you're going to keep having fun.
Yeah.
And it's been very silly, and I've enjoyed it a lot.
Yeah. So, With the Playdate, do you keep the games? Do they still stay loaded on there?
Yep,
or-
you keep all the games on there.
Okay.
Like they don't go away at any point.
Is there a way of copying them off if you need to back them up and create some space?
Yeah, if you need to clear some space off. So there is enough space on the Playdate for the entire first series of games to be on there at once.
Right.
At some point in the future, they may do a season 2
Right.
once they've finally gotten everyone's first batches of them out to people.
Yes.
If and when they do, you'll be able to delete games from season 1 and then reinstall them later if you want.
Okay.
There is also a homebrew scene and tools for developing your own games for it, which can also be loaned. You can just load on your own games or ones that other people have made, and there's a little homebrew
That sounds
scene.
interesting.
I'm going to wait until I'm done with season 1 before I play around with the stuff the homebrew scene's been doing.
Do you know
but-
what kind of programming language it uses? Or
it has its own like visual program for
Okay.
like sort of visual coding program
Okay.
that has built in mind the limitations of the tech and sort of lets you make stuff that works with the hardware.
That sounds fascinating.
Yeah, I'm excited to at some point have a little play around with that myself, but yeah, it's pretty neat. I am really enjoying the Playdate, and I think even if not every game on it so far, particularly the Boogie one, it hasn't been 100% my thing. I've very much been enjoying having this little unique handheld that feels very premium and very creatively put together with a lot of love,
Yeah.
and having this little bite-sized, here's just a couple of little things to play with every week.
It seems like good
It's-
dopamine for the ADHD brain.
Yeah, it's just the right size doses of here's something new to play, so that you feel like something novel this week that you can play around a little with and go, that's exciting.
Yeah.
It's very much what I was hoping it would be.
Well, I look forward to the continued adventures of the Playdate.
What about you? What have you played this week?
Oh my goodness. Well, I played Void Scrappers.
Ooh.
It's a space-based Vampire Survivors style game.
Uh-huh.
It's fine, I guess. So, I should have known better. Steph talks about it on Podquisition a few weeks back. And I
Yeah.
was like, okay,
I-
I'll give it a peek.
I vaguely
didn't
remember
completely
this.
slag it off.
Yeah.
And it's, again, one of the cheaper options. There's so many Survivors games around at the moment, and some of them accept we're going to do it cheaply, we're going to do, make it cheap but sell lots idea. And that way I mind less if it's not super awesome. Although Vampire Survivors really did set a very high bar for very cheap games.
It really did.
But I don't expect everyone to be Vampire Survivors. But Void Scrappers, it's got several problems. The first one is it's set in space. So it doesn't have enough to make each run unique. You don't have, and there's ways you could do it. You could have gone, we're orbiting this planet, so you're going to see, a lot of this in the background. And you could do, a fun parallax where you're, scrolling and it gets further away and stuff like that.
It's not made enough of an effort, though, in that regard.
It feels like the background as a whole, and I think there is just one. I could be wrong, but I think it is just one. It feels like a larger image was scaled down, and then a noise filter was put over the top to give it a bit more texture.
Yeah.
And I was like, okay, that's probably fine. But after a while, it's like, this is just so uninteresting to look at. I don't feel any sense of where I am. And I guess because it's top-down, you're not going to in a largely featureless space. Occasionally you'll pass by a bit of colour in the background. Not like a full nebula or anything. It's like, oh, okay, well, I guess I passed that. And I got to a point where I'd unlocked the first 9 characters.
Yeah.
I had purchased almost every single upgrade, but I hadn't felt like I'd made any kind of progress at all. Some of the characters were a bit more interesting to play because they have unique things. One of the first ones I unlocked is if you have the drones that sort of spin around your ship very slowly, instead of just doing that, these ones will act like basically little attack robots. So they'll just fly home into enemies and bounce over the top of them and do contact damage slowly over time. And it's like, okay, well in this case it makes sense to spec into mostly drone things. And slowly, as you do more levels, you'll be like, oh, now there's a new type of card you can have that will unlock. And it might show up in the game, and you might have a chance to get this one particular kind of unlock. And some characters will have, like, very specific things that are linked to them as a character. And occasionally be like, but it would be really fun if those things turned up in the pool, like in Vampire Survivors.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't happen.
Oh, no.
There's one where occasionally you'll just burst into flames, and you can just ram into ships and do damage.
Yeah.
And for that period, you are invincible. It's got like a dodge roll mechanic type thing, where you do a speed up, and for that moment, you're invincible, which is great because it's very easy to get swamped, because it's space, there's no walls.
Yeah.
So you can't sort of line yourself up around something and hope that things won't get to you. You just have to, like, I hope I'm going to dodge into this direction, and I'm going to hope there aren't any enemies off screen that I can't see.
Yeah.
But then, like, some of the power-ups just don't really work very well.
Yeah.
Like, one of them is, after you've done your dash thing, it will bounce you back to where you started.
Okay.
So you dash forward, and then you get, like, a slightly sped up, but still slow enough that you can see rewind of that. And then you just have to hope that where you land, something hasn't moved into that space.
Oh.
And if you've got extended dash on, like you've got a power-up that extends the amount of time you dash, you might not have any clue what that space looks like.
Yeah.
And sometimes if it's too big and there's too many things following you, you're just guaranteed to pretty much to go back into a space where there is now something, at which point you've completely written off your dodge roll.
Yeah.
You just don't have that anymore. It's like, well, I guess I'm screwed. Or you have to start doing, like, weird loops and stuff.
This just feels poorly thought through.
Yeah.
It feels like a lot of features designed in a vacuum, not designed in actual playtesting.
It feels like it's got some good ideas. There's some fun stuff with lasers. One of the laser power-ups you can get is a laser has a chance to spawn another laser. So sometimes there'll just be another one that flies out at a weird angle. And that's kind of cool. There's things like certain... If one of your little drones hits an enemy, maybe they pop into bullets, maybe they explode.
Yeah.
Maybe you get both of those things, and it does both, and then maybe the bullets explode as well. Or maybe the bullets boomerang back to their start position, meaning if you've got huge range on these things, they're doing basically just cutting a line back and forth, which can be really handy. There's so many great ideas, but it's just dull.
Yeah.
It's such a shame, but like I've basically felt like I'd seen everything and there wasn't much point playing many more, but also like I hadn't really achieved anything.
That's a real shame. Yeah. It's a real shame when a game has promising ideas and it's just like, I like all the things on paper that you're doing, I just don't enjoy actually playing you.
Yeah. I really am enjoying this genre of game. Like, obviously I am. I've just started my second run through of Vampire Survivors Mobile.
That you have.
And I'm already about halfway through and going, I'm really having a good time with this. So
yeah,
I hope we get more stuff that manages to be interesting.
Yeah.
And affordable, because an affordable game that keeps me going for a good long time is definitely worth it.
The thing I hope is that Vampire Survivors sets a bar for what is the sort of ballpark of what's expected of this genre. Like, I want this to some degree raise the bar of what is a good game in this genre.
I don't know if it is, though, because I think what we're getting at the moment is a lot of people going, I think I understand this, I'm going to make what I have gleaned from that with the lowest possible effort.
I agree that that's what we're getting right now, but I'm hoping that enough of those doing fairly poorly is like, okay, it's not enough to just do it, we gotta do it well.
Yeah, I hope so, because I saw an advert for one called The Tower, because I am not paying extra for more Duolingo, but I am enjoying learning German. And one of the adverts that came up the other day, several times in a row, was for a game called The Tower, which is you are a hexagon in a big square that takes up that's your playing area is the square, and things will fly at the hexagon, and it just shoots. You don't move, it automatically shoots, and occasionally you will get enough XP that you can buy an upgrade. I was like, that.
Yeah, you are Vampire Survivorsing with only the wand.
I guess.
Kind of.
I mean, it seems like you can do other stuff with it, but you're not moving. There's no aspect of that to it. It's like, wow, this
Oh, wait,
is...
you're not moving?
You're not moving. You are a tower. Things are flying at
yeah,
you.
no, I see.
It's just the lowest possible effort for this.
Oh, yeah, no, I thought you were at least moving. Oh, yeah, no, that's worse than I thought.
Oh, yeah. So, I suspect we're probably going to get a glut of really low effort versions. And hopefully, maybe I will be the one. I will play all of the different Vampire Survivors, and then I'll come on here and tell people which one's worth playing. So far, Point Scrappers, fine if you've got a couple of hours and £3.
Yeah.
Maybe wait till it's on sale. What about you? What have you played?
Well, we can quickly crack through. I don't think we'd played either of these last time we recorded. We played a couple of new board games.
We have.
Or expansions of board games.
Yes.
We played some New York Zoo.
We did, thanks, ma'am.
Yeah. This is a charming little game. It's not too difficult, but there is a good degree of thinking ahead and options of how to optimize, and it is a game about place tetrominos in a zoo, and each of those is an enclosure, and fill up the enclosure, and if there's more than one of that animal in that enclosure, they can breed, and that'll help you fill it up faster, and that gets you some free tiles to fill up some of your spaces and fill up your whole zoo.
Yeah, and basically the point is it's 1 to 5 player, you're just trying to fill up all of the empty green space on your zoo, any way you can, and it's surprisingly deep. Because around the board you have, I think, 15 slots for different shaped pieces.
Yep.
And they range from 4 pieces, so an actual tetromino, to just quite large polyminos with, I think, 8 pieces on are the very largest. And while they will take up huge amounts of space, they take longer to fill, and if those are your early ones and you're investing heavily in those, then...
But those are probably going to be your early ones because they're at the top of their respective stacks.
Exactly.
So it's going to make those, they're good for filling space, but they're going to take longer for you to fill with animals to get the bonus resources.
Yes.
It is a balancing act of, you can only move so many spaces around the board per turn, which sort of gives you a limited number of choices, and you are either getting some new animals to put in your zoo spaces, getting a new polimino to put the animals on, or you sometimes pass spaces that will cause breeding. So you're trying to make sure that if you get an animal in an enclosure, you get at least one breeding partner for it before you get around to the space where that animal's going to breed. There is a balancing act of how much time you spend filling up places versus just getting new poliminos on the board, because that's going to, early on, just throwing a bunch of poliminos down is going to get you a bunch of, space covered, but they're awkwardly shaped enough you're probably going to be leaving gaps, and you're going to need to complete enclosures to get the small pieces to fill in your gap sizes.
And potentially if you've left lots of little 1x1 spaces, you're going to need to do more of them.
Yes.
By the time you're getting towards the end, at which point you're hurrying for whatever's left available.
So there is a balancing act of trying to have lots of your enclosures nearly complete but not fully complete, so that once you know what small gaps you have to fill, you can cash in finish off a bunch of enclosures and fill in those gaps. But if you leave it too long to start doing that, then you're not going to be able to catch up. You have to very carefully work out when the moment is to go, I need to start cashing some of these in and getting the nice, reliable shapes to make this completable.
Yep. It's got a really interesting solo mode, so you have a double-sided board. One is slightly smaller than the other, and so I'm guessing that's an easy and a hard mode. And the point is you have 2 laps around the main board to try and fill your entire zoo.
Yes.
And that seems like a really fun way of doing it, and I like the fact that there's 2 different difficulties on there.
It is a very focused puzzle, that single player.
It's a good pondery one, and it's also a good way of, I just got this game, I want to learn it so I can teach other people, and you're not playing a very rules different game as you can sometimes with solo modes. This is exactly the same game.
It's just practicing your pacing and your your strategy and going, this might not be a guaranteed win against another real person, but if I can complete the single player challenge, I'm at least doing something right with this approach.
Yes. And at that point, it's very rules-like anyway. There's a few things in the manual where it's you might not want to use these rules on the first time, but I taught you full set of rules first
Yeah.
time, and you didn't really have any problem with it.
No.
It's just a little bit of memory of, I filled an enclosure. I
Remembering
can put one of the things back in
your little
in
holding
size space.
pen, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the rule. They're sort of like, you don't have to do this.
That's
Maybe
the main
first time.
one that I was forgetting a little at times.
Yeah.
But,
I really like that. See, this is from the same person that made Patchwork,
yes.
and there have been problems with Patchwork that we've talked about before. In that it can be quite difficult to spatially organize things in your brain. And
Yes.
one feature this game has is it's so simple. It is a disc with a question mark on it that sits next to the board.
Yes.
So you can go, here's how many spaces forward I can move. These are the available pieces. I'm going to put the question mark on the space. I'm going to take the thing. I'm going to try it out on my board. And if it doesn't work, I'm just going to put it back.
I remember where to put it back.
Exactly.
Well, I think it's that alongside the fact that you, right from the start of the game, unlike Patchwork, can see these are the predictable size pieces of varying kinds that can be used to fill in gaps.
Mm-hmm.
So if you pick up a piece and it can't 100% fit exactly how you want it to, you can look at the board and go, I know exactly how to get a piece that will fill the gap that this creates.
Yeah.
And that sort of gets rid of some of that paralysis of, if this isn't the exact perfect piece, I don't want to put it down.
Mm.
And like those two things in combination, I think really help to make this feel a lot more approachable.
Yes, because while Patchwork doesn't require you to fill everything, you do lose points for not having everything, so people like us will sit there going, but what if it needs to be perfect? It needs to be possible to be
Yeah.
perfect. Even if I can't make it perfect in turn time, I need to know that it is possible
Yes.
to make this perfect.
That I haven't scuppered the chances of a perfect end state.
Yes.
Yeah.
And I really appreciate that, and I thanks, Mum, again. Laura's mum bought this for me, and I really enjoy this, and I look forward to playing more, and I look forward to different play counts because
Yes.
it plays up to 5. With 5 players, you have like much smaller spaces, so I guess it's going to be crunchier from early on, but also not drag on forever. It's like a half-hour game,
Yeah.
and it's got lovely little wooden animals.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The other thing we played together that was new was we
Yes.
played some of the State of Emergency expansion, is it called?
Yes, this is the final expansion for Standard Pandemic.
Indeed.
Thank you very much.
Oh, you're
This is-
welcome.
Thanks.
We played part of it that was called the Hinterlands.
Yes.
Where, alongside all of the normal human-born diseases on the pandemic board, each of the 4 regions of the map has 4 or 5 places that will connect to an off-the-board additional space.
Yep.
Um,
Where things are transferring to animals.
Yes, you're getting animal-human cross-contamination of disease, and basically every time that more disease cubes come out, you roll the dice, and this place off the board might get a cube.
Yep.
And if it outbreaks, it will outbreak to all 4 or 5 places it's connected to.
Yep.
And if any of those 4 or 5 places outbreak, they'll outbreak into the hinterlands.
Mm-hmm.
And getting in and out of the hinterlands, like, you have to go to one place that's connected to it and then use a move to get over to it.
Yep.
So it's just one additional thing to keep track of, but more than that, you've now got 5 locations on the board that if any of them outbreaks, it's going to be way worse than normal. Plus, these places that are like difficult to get to, they don't have cards for them in the deck, so it's difficult to build a research station to be able to
There's
fly
like
to
one
them.
character you can do it, and by the time you've got all 4 expansions, or all 3 expansions, it's nearly impossible to guarantee one player is going to get that out of the random dealing.
It's an additional amount of oh god, we got to keep track of that, and also like you can't get rid of the card for that area from the deck, which certain events can do because it doesn't have a card. You can't go, well, that area's already come up once this epidemic, so it's probably not going to come up until the next epidemic card.
There's constantly a 1 in 6 that something is going to happen in one of those spaces.
I really like it as an additional challenge.
I love it. I think what it does for me from base Pandemic is, in base Pandemic, even on the highest difficulty, even with the On the Brink expansion adding an extra epidemic, which I think brings it to a total of 8, then, or it might just be 7, at that point, you you do have that thing of, oh yeah, I know that's happened this time, and I know there's roughly this many cards.
Yes.
You can sort of factor that into your challenge. The other thing you get with base Pandemic is you start to treat outbreaks as just another resource.
Yes.
And it's like, yes, okay, we can afford a resource, so if that one place goes, it's not going to be too bad. But in this, it is so common that you will get to a point where it's like, everything is going to fire off at once. So if one thing goes, that'll be a second thing almost guaranteed. And then you're going to go, then literally the next player's turn and have to deal with it on the other side of the world as well.
Yeah, it doesn't seem like much, but basically getting one more place with a cube on it every turn really puts that extra pressure on you to be everywhere at once. And it means that you are so much more likely to have that cascading outbreak problem. That element of randomness does just mean that there is a certain amount of you're gonna have to change your plans as and when the whims of the dice decide.
Yeah. And I think it's more likely that an unfortunate shuffle could mean you are just fucked.
Yes. But also, we played one game with just that, but we also played a game with the quarantine.
Yes,
expansion.
and I think that is absolutely essential to Hinterlands.
I think it definitely feels very balanced to be used with Hinterlands.
Yes.
Which is, hey, you've got a limited number of these quarantines, you can place them down for an action, they will prevent a cube dropping down on that location twice and then be used up. Great for the Hinterlands.
Perfect.
It's great to just be able to pop them on those 4 locations and have some breathing room to get on top of the regular board again.
But you are still essentially nursing those things because you can't go, oh, it popped once, I'll pop back in there and top it up. You have to wait until it's completely run out, which means if you've got everyone on one side of the board far away from it, then that can be a problem. There's so much else in this expansion. There's a different type of mutant variant, which we saw first in On the Brink, which is an extra nasty purple version of the virus, which you're going to have to be really working very hard to deal with.
Yeah.
It includes the vaccine factories. Not going to say too much about those.
Yes.
It's a at one point you will have a disease that is difficult. It's harder to find a cure for, and then once you do find the cure, you're swapping out a research station for a vaccine factory that once per round will drop a vaccine onto that spot.
Yeah.
And then you, as an action, can go to those factories, pick up all of those, and then as part of your cure action, you have to use one of these vaccine doses at the same time. And I imagine that is going to be very difficult to work out.
Yes.
What fascinated me, I think, about reading through the instructions with that aspect was you can run it with On the Brink, which is already a huge thing off the board.
Yeah.
You can still have On the Brink off the board as another extra layer. I think this would be absolutely hellish at anything above 3 epidemics or 4 epidemics.
I feel like so, but I also like that we have that as an option for if we ever reach a point where these new expansions are a little bit sort of we feel like we have a sort of stable plan and we're reliably doing it. It's nice to know that we have that ridiculous option to be cool, throw that in too.
Yeah. It does seem to balance itself a little bit with the so this hard ever epidemic is called the Superbug variant. With the Superbug, you have a bunch of extra bonus cards that go in the player deck, which are things like, hey, this is a wild blue card, or this is a wild yellow card.
Yeah.
Which means you can use it as part of finding a cure for that particular disease.
Yeah.
And you might have, I think there's extra things about healing stuff in there as well. Basically, I think it's eight cards that can be added in, and you're supposed to add as many extra cards as you have epidemics, so 1 per stack.
Yeah,
which
that's a nice.
Seems like a nice thing. I guess they probably worked out it was nigh on impossible in certain ways.
Yeah,
and sometimes you're just 1 card away from having the right number of things. And the other thing you sometimes get in certain player counts once you've added any of the expansions is what if there's one leftover card and you haven't quite calculated things correctly, and that is the one card you need to find the cure in the last round?
Yeah.
That is a risk, especially when you're playing harder versions of the game.
Yeah.
Because you might think, oh yeah, we've counted enough of these, but if you've needed to fly across the world to do something in a particular way, you might have thrown away more cards than you thought you did.
Indeed.
It's a good thing that Pandemic, even in the base game, has the rule of you can always look through the discard piles to see
How many
what has
of that
happened.
how many of that colour have I thrown away already?
Yeah, it really helps with that sort of thing, but there's also like negative events that will sit by the deck and be just horrible things ongoing until the next time you draw one out, or until something else has happened.
Mm-hmm.
So there is an awful lot in this box, and I think it's probably going to take us a while to work all through it, but having now the complete set of base Pandemic, it's lovely to have it all together. It's lovely to see all the different variants. Would love to play more of the bioterrorist option with the hidden roles and moving around the world stuff. Because we gave that one go, and I'm not entirely sure we played the rules fully correct for that. I was fairly certain I was getting it, but yeah, it was. Yeah. It felt like that got really chaotic super quickly, and maybe that needs to be played in a more I am DMing for you rather than I am trying to win.
Maybe we'll see.
We'll work it out with more practice.
I'd like to have a go at being the bioterrorist.
Well, I hope you will get to go at some point, even if I have to pay a 3-hander on the main board. I don't mind that because I really enjoy playing Pandemic.
Yeah.
And I think once again it deals with a lot of the problems with base Pandemic is people can learn it and start thinking it's solved.
Yes.
And this absolutely blows that out of the water.
Yes.
Because I think even the heaviest base game quarterbacker would struggle with hinterlands beyond, I'm going to do my best with this.
Yes.
I think they'd have to be a very dedicated to being a dick about playing.
Yeah.
To try and override everyone for that. So, yeah, I think it's nice to deal with that. And it's nice to see elements that I'm not going to spoil anything specific, but it's nice to see elements of things we saw added late game or mid game in Pandemic Legacy 2, and 0.
Yes.
Those sort of aspects of the game that was just like, I maybe got to play 2 games with that aspect in.
It's nice to see them take stuff that is like really interesting mechanics from Legacy.
Yeah, I don't know which came first, but it's nice to see those elements just appear again.
Indeed. Well, have you played anything else this week you want to quickly rattle through?
Yeah, I just want to quickly. I'll be good. I'll be quick. So, I played some Super Lesbian Animal RPG.
I've played a little bit of that myself.
It's very cute. It's very gay. I had a few problems with the graphic settings. Managed to work them out in the end. Basically, I wouldn't recommend setting the start in full screen from the toggle box that pops up at the start. That caused me untold problems that it took me a while to work out how to deal with. Ultimately, though, the actual gameplay itself, really love it. I like the politics slider and the ludonarrative dissonance slider.
I like an RPG where your primary character's a healer. That is uncommon for an RPG, and it's a nice little change of pace.
As someone who loves to play healer in so many things, I'm glad that was an option, and I am enjoying all the characters. I'm not super deep in it, but I had fun playing on stream, and it was nice to do something that was unashamedly queer.
Yes, I want to put more time into it, but the little bit of it I've seen has been like, this seems worth my time.
It's been very queer so far, and I hear it gets queerer and more trans, so yay for that. Also played another Survivors game called Whisker Squadron. Well, it's a demo at the moment.
Okay.
So this is available on Steam. Apparently Steam is going, you played 208 hours of Vampire Survivors. Whoa, ho, ho, let me get you all of the Survivors games.
I mean, that's fair. You have suggested you quite enjoy this genre.
Oh, yeah, well, I have now.
If done right.
I have now. This is almost like the original Star Fox, the corridor levels.
Okay.
So rather than, Star Fox 64 had a lot of the, big all-range mode battle areas, this is the, you're flying down a corridor and there are enemies. And it's if you shoot the enemies enough, eventually they will explode, fly into the clouds behind them. You will get pickups from that of, like, I guess, scrap.
Yeah.
And you can use that to do upgrades within the level. You're also getting money that you can use for wider upgrades outside the game. I enjoyed what I played, but it is quite a restrictive demo.
Okay.
So, couple of issues. One, if you are like, fuck, I died and I want to get back into another run, you have to be a bit careful to navigate because it will keep sending you back to the Steam page for the full game.
Oh, yes,
Which is not out yet.
It keeps trying to send you to the, like, please,
Wish list now.
Yeah.
I have already. Please stop sending me to this page. And I don't know if it's just because it's the demo. There doesn't seem to be a huge amount of enemy variety yet.
Yeah.
Again, I don't know how big it's going to get, but that is what it is at the moment. There seems to be like just a few basic enemies. I'm guessing the corridors are procedurally generated.
Okay.
But it's quite a nice, like neon pink and blacks and greens. I'm liking of a slightly synthwavy vibe. The Steam store page, like trailer video, has some really great music, but the in-game music is just okay. It feels a bit, we found some royalty-free music that isn't even super sci-fi.
Yeah.
So what I'm going to wait for is the full game to come out and see how it do for regards to that. Yeah. There's a lot of the, like, the roguelitey outside of the main game power-ups for long-term use. Most of them are locked at the moment, but you do get to sort of look through what the list is, and I'm like, yep, that would be really handy for this, and I think I would be having more fun with it if I could just put a few coins into that. There seems to be a bunch of different characters. I believe there's extra ships eventually, but
a sense
I
of
believe
like
it's happening at some point
this
this year.
seems cool. I'll play it when all that cool looking stuff that I'm excited about is there.
Assuming it's a reasonable price, but I've enjoyed what I've seen so far, and more of that, please, because I quite like original Star Fox.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. What about you? Have you played anything else?
Not much else, I don't think. We played some stuff together, and we can like very quick, like stuff we've played before, but we can quickly talk about other player counts. We played Hogs of War at 4-player.
Yes, much better at 4-player.
Much better at 4-player. Still has some balance issues, but I think that having more units on the board who get into combat more quickly and there are more threats on the board to be thinking about makes that a more enjoyable game.
Yeah. Again, I think I would like to take out some of the point scoring stuff.
Agreed.
And maybe make it like you get points for doing damage to people's bases.
Yeah.
Because at that point you're so on top of each other, there is actual potential for that.
Yes.
And I did like the constant back and forth of that.
I'm excited for when we reach the point of doing custom maps that we've done some balance testing on in 4-player.
Yes.
That's when I think we're going to really get into this.
Because the idea I've been having for 4-player as a custom map would be you can basically eventually build everything, so you've got your planes and your airships and stuff. You have a level 3 swill pump right near your base that is yours to start with, and the only way to get points is direct damage on other people's base.
Yes.
And there's just so much potential for that to get really chaotic in the best way.
We also played some Everdell in 4-player, both the base game and then the sort of the expansion that's the market. That game plays really nicely in 4-player.
Yes.
The big difference in 4-player is if you see a thing and you don't get it right now, there's a much bigger chance of it being gone by the time you come back around.
We did see more of the deck, though. I think this is the first time we played a game where we ended up having to shuffle.
I think both games we either completed the deck or got very close to the end of it. Like a lot of stuff does come around by the end, which is nice.
And again, it was Everdell where somebody at the table had only played it for the first time that weekend. And by the end of the weekend, they were going, I really want to get a copy of Everdell.
Yeah.
Which is basically what I did.
Yeah. We played some Merchant's Cove in 4-player.
Yes.
I continue to be really impressed by how well the four different classes we were playing are balanced.
Yes.
In terms of, you are playing 4 completely different games that all ended up pretty dang close together on final scoring.
Yes.
Like, that game, I am impressed at how well they balance the different mechanics.
Yeah, I think they did really well. I think we made the best choice with regard to teaching that.
Yep.
We took the two easiest characters, the ones we had played the most,
Yep.
and taught them to a person on either end of a sofa.
Indeed. The biggest issue was that we gave the character with the marbles to the player who had some finger numbness.
Yes.
Which we know for next time.
The joys of working in a kitchen.
Yep.
Yeah, so I think, bar that minor accessibility issue, I think everyone had fun with that one.
Terraforming Mars in 4-player?
It's been so long since we played Terraforming Mars.
Yes, and even longer since we've done it in 4-player, I think.
Yeah, I think we've maybe done it once or twice.
4-player Terraforming Mars is really neat in that while the game goes by a bit faster in that there's more people filling in things on the board, it's nice to have an end state that feels so full.
Yes.
And, like, it doesn't feel like there is that much of an increase in, oh, dang, I can't do that thing I was planning because someone else did.
Yeah.
If anything, it sort of minimizes the number of terms that you're waiting around for a certain attribute to reach a certain point so you can get your engine going.
Yep, yeah, there's a lot less of that. I've got to hang on to this card for a really long time.
Yeah.
You get one in your first deal and it's like, I think this will be really good, but it's probably going to be about an hour or so before I get to use this.
Yes.
I enjoyed that. I think the main thing that got me a bit was there were so many cards almost in the first round that meant that everyone was putting down oceans. That we had 4 oceans down before we hit our second or third generation.
And that's just a luck of the draw thing,
Yeah,
I think,
entirely.
rather than, anything balance-wise.
I felt like I was blinking and missing the game. Like, I remember it going on not long, but not without the extra difficulty.
The oceans were the thing that happened with. I think the rest of the resources moved at a much more reasonable pace.
I think because one thing was almost written off within 4 or 5 generations, that it meant that basically everything was just getting done much more quickly, almost systematically.
Everyone kind of specced away from the one thing and was a bit more focused.
We've only got 2 things to deal with. Let's go!
Yeah.
But, really enjoyed it. We played some Brass Birmingham.
Oh,
lovely to get that again. I really enjoy that game, but I kind of semi-dread teaching it to people because it's one I really love. I know it's really crunchy, and I know it can be perhaps a little bit of a dry subject for people.
It's
such
a satisfying core loop.
And it's such a tiny box. There's no wasted space, and it fits on a shelf good, and the components are lovely, and oh god, I love it.
We did some D&D.
We did.
You did us a lovely little one-shot with 2 of our friends.
I did. It was called A Large Green Erection. We had people who wanted to play some more D&D. Yeah. And I ran a campaign with a few people at a music festival that we went to way back in the summer. Yeah. And they were like, we'd love to play some more. So I pondered it, and since we didn't have much going on because we finished playing Jaws of the Lion together, I ran that, and it was set several centuries later after the end of Polyamory in that same world. So I had my world created.
I sat with D&D Beyond and very quickly threw together some character sheets based on what they wanted, that sort of mechanically how they wanted to play. Yeah. We had a fun little couple of hour story.
And you saved the Wizard Attenborough.
It was very silly, and we had a good time. Yeah. There was some peril and some what are we gonna do?
So many Myconids.
So many Myconids. Yeah.
I'm glad you had a good time. It's nice to do a D&D that is way less pressure.
Yeah.
I think there is just more pressure on D&D from a podcasting point of view, because although you can play way more rules light, and that's just generally accepted for all of cool stuff. Yeah. It can feel really pressuring of people are going to make thoughts about this. We had fun, and I've forgotten all the bad bits.
Everything I do here has to be consequential and has to continually be engaging, and that is a pressure.
I think even when we got into heavy combat, we managed to keep everyone pretty much engaged, and I think also sitting in a room with people
Yeah.
I found it way easier to go, you haven't said anything for a while, you do something.
Yes, exactly.
And I have noticed during my attempts to edit the last few episodes of Polyarmory that there are times where certain characters are not being called on enough.
Yeah.
It's like, I did my best, but ADHD.
Yeah, it is what it is.
Oh, yes.
And I think the last couple of played things very quickly is you've played with 2 new twisty things.
Oh, yes.
The YJV3?
The YJV3 is an interesting little cube. It's a...
Is this the 2x2 but also a 3x3 but also a...
1x1.
1x1?
So yeah, it is basically that. It looks like a 2x2 with a circle in the middle. And it looks like the circle just moves around and you can just swap the centres.
Yes.
What you quickly realise if you slightly pull the edges apart on the outer 2x2 is that there are, in fact, 3x3 style edge pieces. So if you solve it like a 2x2, then you're going to find that you pull those apart and the edge pieces and are probably in the wrong place.
Yeah.
If you just shift the 1x1 around, that's probably fine, but again, you might end up with the edge pieces in slightly weird angles. So you can solve it however you want, but the thing that struck me most is it's got a really lovely action on it.
Oh, it feels so... It shouldn't feel that smooth to rotate the sphere in the middle of the square.
Yeah, every action in that feels like light as a feather, and
Yeah,
I don't know...
But also sturdily together. Like, it doesn't feel like it's going to fall apart. It doesn't feel loose.
Well, it feels like you can stretch it quite a lot.
Yeah.
You can corner cut on it quite nicely, but it doesn't feel like it's going to pop at any point.
Yeah, it doesn't feel loose. It doesn't feel like it's going to pop. It doesn't feel like there's any friction.
No. Considering it was under a fiver, that's a really nice.
It's kind of
fun
fascinating how nice it feels.
cube. Yeah, it's a fun little experiment, and I'm glad I got that. The other one was the pentacle cube.
The pentacle cube.
I've wanted a pentacle cube for a while because it's basically a 3x3. Well, it's basically a 2x2, but it has this. Each face has a pentacle on it.
Yeah.
And you have to line that up in order to turn, like, the edges. So you make a straight line all the way across round one slice, turn it, and then you'd have to rearrange all the pentacles if you want to move the next thing. And for me, that is a bit of a problem. Because I realise the issue is like, okay, I need to do this algorithm. Cool. Well, we're going to do it very slowly while we're trying to line things up. And then we're going to have to remember where in that algorithm we are. So I ended up not doing a lot of efficient moves. Just for the sake of, I can do a shorter move that I have to repeat several times.
Yes.
Because I can work out, or I can keep those little bits in my head in pieces.
You can't rely on muscle memorying the movement.
Yeah, I can't
to
do like
carry you through a big lengthy algorithm.
Yeah, I couldn't do like a 12 algorithm move because I'd just get freaking lost. And even with the short ones, there were a couple of times I was like, no, hang on, I've done that the wrong way around because I've just lost my place in the damn thing. And maybe for someone without ADHD, that would be way easier. Maybe for someone who could picture things in their head.
Yeah.
Maybe someone who didn't have aphantasia, that might be easier to manage, but I solved it. I solved it within an hour. My main thing now is sitting there going, it's got carbon fibre style stickers on it. And part of my brain's like, yeah, but I could make them all line up properly as well. I've solved it. What if I solved it tidily as well? So yeah, that's a fun one. And again, less than a fiver. So nice to thanks Cubes UK for being a source of weird new things to fuck around with. Because festive holidays are a good time to sit down with a puzzle and mess. I did the Gigaminx a couple of times this holiday as well. It was nice to go, I have time, and I'm not like worrying that you could be doing other things. I could be, but fuck it. I'm doing this.
Have you played anything else this week?
I've briefly played with the Novation FL Key 37.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Yeah, okay.
It's a very lovely keyboards by Novation, who make my other keyboard as well. But it's very specifically designed to work with FL Studio, which is my door of choice. And I am just getting to grips with it, but it's nice to have one that goes, I plug in and I just work. You're not going to have to learn MIDI programming to make the drum pads work in any faint way that they should do. Like, the drum pads on this have been nice, properly responsive. They light up the correct colours for FPC.
Yay.
I can, like, mess around with stuff in the channel rack just straight off of the keyboard. There's, like, transport controls and all sorts of other things. You can scroll through presets just from the keyboard. So you can spend a lot of time not, like, looking back up at the door. You can just go, I want to do this, here is my thing. And it feels like it's going to be one less block in the way of creativity.
Yeah.
And now I'm just looking forward to getting a day where I'm not panicking about actually outside life stuff and getting work done and all having run out of meds and all the other good stuff, and I can just sit down and make music.
Yay.
Yay.
I'm excited for you to have that.
Yeah, thank you very much. I'm enjoying that. So I think that's everything.
I think that is everything.
Well then.
Time for this.
Oh, hi. Do come in and have a seat.
Thank you.
Now, what can I do for you today?
So, yeah, something's not right. I've been feeling like very unusually run down. I'm
Okay.
feeling just not myself. I'm very tired. I am really, really lacking in energy. I just am not feeling myself, and I don't know what's going on.
Right, okay. And have you had any lifestyle changes recently?
No, nothing that obvious I can think of.
You been eating okay?
Yeah, been eating okay.
And you're still masking when you go out?
Yeah, still masking.
Okay. You've had your boosters?
Yeah, I've had the boosters.
Have you been near anyone who's had either the flu or
No.
Nothing like that. Okay, well, let's have a look at you. If you could just sit here, would you mind just taking your jacket off?
Oh,
there?
yeah, of course. Yeah.
Okay, and if you could just lift up your hair, I'm just going to have a quick
Yeah,
check.
yeah.
Just here. Okay. Are you getting any pain there?
No.
Okay, how about over here?
No.
Okay, do you mind if I just turn your collar down a little bit?
Sure.
Okay. Yes. Okay, I think we've got the problem here. You do seem to have a very nasty parasite.
Oh, no.
Yeah, okay. And so have you noticed any problems at home that haven't been getting sorted out?
Yeah. Yeah,
Just
no,
sort
you
of general
mention it.
maintenance stuff that really should be getting
A little bit.
looked after. Okay.
Little
And you're
bit.
finding that a good chunk of your wages every month are just sort of disappearing?
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I'm not really getting much in return.
And in return, you've maybe noticed that you're just getting more and more tired and drained and...
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, see, what this is, I think, is you've got yourself a landlord.
Oh.
Yeah, they are a very nasty kind of
Oh.
parasite, and once they get their little teeth in, they really like to just cling on in there and basically just extract your money and energy and time for, well, nothing, really.
That's not a very symbiotic
Yeah.
relationship, that.
Well, it's certainly not very healthy. So, have you had any previous reactions to any kind of antibiotics or
No, should be good.
and everything okay with regards to anaesthetic?
Yeah, no, it's all good.
Right. Okay. Well, would you have time for me to try and remove this for you today?
Oh, certainly so.
Okay. Let's just get some numbing cream around the edge there, and then I'm just going to get my pointiest tweezers and just get them right under there and just there, come on now, there we go.
Oh.
I work very hard. The rent's going up. I'm gonna have to put the rent up for this. Okay, and let's just get that disposed of in the bio bin there, nasty little creature. Okay, I'll just get someone from reception to come and incinerate that. Hopefully you'll feel a bit better.
I feel better already.
Excellent. Well, since you're in the UK, that won't cost you a penny. Thanks
you.
for coming in, and obviously do keep an eye out if maybe there's a few of these going around at the moment. Do keep an eye on your friends and make sure to tell them, and we'll get those sorted out.
Hey, come in. It's gonna be so fun, this, isn't it?
It's going to be great. I'm ready.
I'm really looking
Got your
forward
notes?
to. Yeah, I've got my notes. I'm really looking forward to having my turn.
And you sorted out the custom wild magic table for me?
Yeah, well, I've got everything ready. I'm so looking forward to being able to be like, oh, I'm the one with the secretive screen who gets to have final say on things now. Ooh, it's gonna be fun.
All the power is yours.
Yeah.
Yours.
It's gonna be great.
All the power's yours.
It's gonna be great.
Yeah.
So yeah, I guess we'll start playing. You're sitting in a tavern.
Awesome. Okay, so how many possible targets are there?
Oh, I mean, I'm going to say about 20 friendly NPCs who've done nothing to you.
Excellent.
Several of which are quest important.
Cool. So I'm just going to roll this D100 with triple advantage. Excellent. Okay.
Wait, what?
Well,
what?
what I'm going to do is I'm just going to put these oiled rags of leather into my nostrils, and then I'm going to release my gas cloud over the entire room that I've used by mixing the poison gas with this canister that I've been slowly filling up. You get to use that just as a bonus action because it's not really a full action. I already had this thing prepared, as you'll see there in my inventory list.
Yeah. Can I have a look at your?
Yeah, please do.
Can I have a look at your character sheet?
That one's dead. That one's dead. That one's dead. Oh, they're pretty. They're dead.
Oh god, so many.
Did you paint this one?
Yeah.
You put loads of detail in that. I really like that one's dead.
So many of these were going to be so important.
Oh, and hang on. Just flip a coin. Oh, yep. The whole building's on fire. Cool. So I would like to
pause. Mm-hmm. You're sat outside of a tavern now.
I'm going to toast one of my marshmallows.
I'm going to need you to show me your character sheet because I don't know what just happened.
There you go. There's my character sheet. I'm just going to toast one of my marshmallows, which you'll see just there on line 6, over the fire.
Okay.
I'm going to use my rapier.
Oh.
Yep. I will be a level 3 bard fighter paladin. You'll see I've multi-classed there so that I can get the absolute best out of everything. You'll see that I've managed to get my AC up to 19, and you'll notice that all of my stats have +4 on them.
Yep, yeah, I see what you have...
But also because of my racial trait as a half-tabaxi beholder, that I've managed to get myself complete resistant to spells, and it's dexterity that basically means I'm unhittable.
Yep, no, I see that, and I also see how I see that description of your character voice right there that I'm going to be listening to every session.
You're ready for me to do the thing.
Yep. I'm ready to try and tell a grounded, heartfelt narrative with that voice going on.
You're gonna do great. This is gonna be brilliant. Brilliant.
Yeah. Cool. And this is just naturally the character you wanted to play.
Yeah, it's just definitely. I mean, I've got a lot of experience with the game. Obviously, I've seen a lot of things over the years, and just put some of my favourite bits together, just to finally get to give it a go.
And this is definitely not punishment for all the things we've done over the years as players when you've DM'd.
Why on it? No. This is just some ideas that I had that I've just thrown together, Okay, I've got a lot of experience DMing, and I DM'd people before you came along.
Okay. Sure, we'll go ahead with it, but here's what I want to say in return. Next time you DM for me, I'm going to go Googling every broken meta list that exists out there. Get ready for me to turn a swarm of flies into elephants and have them raining down from the sky. 2 can play at this game.
Oh no, I slipped and fell on my magic sword that is just enough to kill me. Oh no, I'm dead. I guess I have to retire. So, what have you put in your eyes?
Well, we watched a bunch of stuff together because we spent the better part of a week just doing stuff.
Or not doing stuff.
We watched Gremlins together.
Na.
That sure is a film that goes hard and intense in ways that I always forget that it's as scary as it is at points.
It's
for a children's film.
It's quite scary. It doesn't fuck about visually. There are some really horrific scenes in that.
For a film that is largely hey, what if we goofed around with sort of little cute monster puppets? Yeah, no, they don't fuck around with getting intense there.
Nope. And yeah, it's visually it still looks really good.
It holds up so much better than so many other films of its era.
Practical effects.
Yeah, but I mean it's good practical effects.
Yeah, really, that's what I mean. Practical effects generally look better for way longer.
I think that there is a real impressiveness to the sheer number of puppets that are being puppeted effectively at the same time in like large crowd type scenes. I think that really helps add sort of sell the illusion of these being living things.
Yeah, it's fascinating. I think it managed to avoid being transphobic.
I don't remember any transphobia.
I think I'd have noticed
Really?
at the time. I feel like I'd have noticed.
Is it Gremlins 2 that has like, that one's got lipstick, that's a bit silly. Like, I think that's the closest the series gets.
I didn't even think that was particularly transphobic.
No, not necessarily. It's
Or even that particular gremlin was supposed to be Mascodian. Even so, they looked hot.
I'm not suggesting it is. My point was more that I think the closest this series ever gets is lipstick. Girly is funny. I feel like is the closest they get. But yeah, it's a film. It's a film I never think about until
I
the
don't know
moment I've
why I
watched
was
it.
thinking about it. It just popped into my head a couple of weeks ago, and I kept thinking of. I was trying to remember the dad's name, and I had it in my mind, and I had it correct, and my brain was going, "That's not. That can't be. That's no."
Well, I think it's just a case of the festive season was here, and that is a film technically set at the festive season.
Yeah, I guess. But yeah, it's a movie I've not watched probably since I was a kid, and we videotaped it off the TV when it was not as graphic as the version we watched.
It holds up fairly well. I think like about the worst that it does for a film of that era is it's slight.
There's that one character who's kind of xenophobic.
Yeah, and there's a slight degree of like Asian stereotyping a little bit. There's a bit of play.
Yes, the mysterious old man.
The mysterious old man who's from Asia and probably has some sort of mysterious powers or secret knowledge of mysterious things. A little bit of that, but like
He has a magical being, perhaps.
I've seen a lot
you haven't-
worse from the era.
Yeah.
It's one of the less problematic ones of its ilk.
Yeah. I didn't go. There's another thing I can never watch again. What else did we watch?
We watched Don't Give Disney Money, but we watched Strange World.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed that.
I like this graphic style because this is the same one as what was the last one? Something about the Millers versus the Machines?
Oh, that's not a Disney one.
Is it not?
No,
It's a very similar art style.
It's a very similar art style, you are right. It's a very similar character model style, but yeah, no, Disney didn't make the Mitchells versus the Machines, but I understand the comparison you're making.
Like, very similar, like, colour palette in a lot of ways.
It
and
feels
very similar character design.
It feels like at the very least some inspiration was borrowed.
Or
in that
maybe
regard.
one of the artists defected.
maybe some concept artist or something was similar, but this is a film set in a like very remote village surrounded by mountains, and you've got a father that wants to sort of get over the mountains and explore the rest of the world, and a son who wants to find things that will make where they already live better. And he discovers this plant that basically ends up becoming an electricity source for the community and sort of jumping them forward technologically. It's a growable plant that is an energy source. And Dad continues pushing off through the mountains.
And never
to be seen again. And you then follow like that son, once he's grown up, and his kid having a similar sort of clash of what they want to do with their lives.
And what a parent expects.
Yes, and trying to deal with like parental it's another children's film about generational parental trauma.
Generational parental trauma meets Journey to the Centre of the Earth.
Yeah, it's a little bit more like, rather than being from the child perspective of sort of generational trauma passing down, it's about the difficulty of being the parent trying to cut that cycle and how you might create new problems while trying to not perpetuate problems you went through.
Yes, just because you don't want to be an explorer doesn't mean to say that you expecting your son to be, in this case, a farmer, is any better.
But yeah, it's that sort of wrapped around a really colourful, fun, creative. I think your comparison was Journey to the Centre of the Earth, which I think is an apt comparison. It is a
Seeing a mysterious, strange world of
fantastical, mysterious journey. Lots of unknowable things as a backdrop to a very character-driven story.
Curious character designs once we get away from the human characters, and then just fascinating ways of you thought about this one particular ecosystem in a very particular way, and there's quite a lot of ways to think about that, and it's nice to see. I'm being vague for a reason, but it's nice to see how all those things are designed and how they exist and coexist.
But by the end, I think that it did a really good job of tying its world building together so that you have a different understanding by the end, and you can look back and go, oh yeah, a bunch of stuff that I didn't understand at the time now makes a lot of sense in the world building, and it feels like a very cohesively thought through place to explore.
And one of those where if your kid decides that this is their film they want to watch over and over again, you'll probably at least appreciate the first rewatch to go, oh!
Yeah, I now see that is what that is that's happening there. Yeah, I really liked it, and I'll also say I think this is the first time that Disney has done a gay character in Disney film that they've actually deserved that label and
I
can
think
go...
we actually have Disney's first actual gay character.
A gay character that is prominent and prominently gay.
Yep.
And a major character
And hopefully inarguably gay.
And isn't just on screen for 5 minutes and is gay on screen.
Yep.
Lots
Also
of times.
a young person who is queer.
Yeah. I really liked the handling of that. I thought that was really well done.
Yep. And hopefully there was no way of editing that out for...
It feels like it would be hard to edit out.
I think it might be possible, but I hope they didn't.
At the very least, it feels like one of the harder ones for them to edit out that they've done. It's not 4 seconds of one handhold in a Lightyear montage.
Or a kiss in a background that you might have missed and not been able to sort of explain away. So, yeah, we'll see what that ends up being. But yeah, I enjoyed it. Don't give Disney money.
Don't give Disney money, but I also enjoyed it.
Yeah, and then we watched about 6 hours of Bluey Season 2. Well, we watched the end of Season 1 and 2/3 of Season 2.
Bluey continues to be a very charming show.
It really is. And it also manages to sort of subtly convey quite adult subjects in a way that an adult would sort of go, oh, there is more to that. Blink and you'll miss it moment.
Yeah, but it also... I think it's done a very impressive job for something that is sort of aimed for such a young audience of avoiding too much repetition. It is rare to get a show like this that still feels like it has new ideas a little ways in.
Yeah, I think that's 50, 60 episodes per season?
Yeah, it is a real treat, that show. Yeah, it's adorable.
And I've also liked the way, and even when it has sort of repeated a concept, it's been a very different thing. And the thing I mean by that is there has been a couple of episodes where the kids have dealt with a thing that is happening in their life by explaining it, retelling it through play.
Yes.
Which I think is just a thing kids do anyway.
Yes.
But, those have all been very different, and the way different people have reacted to that. I quite like the one where they go camping and meet a French dog.
Oh, yeah.
And then it's no, the friend went home, and I never got to talk to the friend again.
It's a really beautiful story about, friendship being able to exist outside of language barriers.
Yes.
And how the sort of limits of that, and how real it can feel, but how much can be missed that is important. Mm. It's a really, interestingly nuanced little story.
Yeah, I mean, in so many levels, they're learning to communicate even though they don't speak the same language, and eventually resorting to pictograms drawn in mud, and then that whole thing of, this is a friend I made on holiday, and I may never see them again if we didn't have the foresight to go, will my mum talk to your mum and swap addresses
but
or whatever?
even so, like, the little wrinkle in there of, in a lot of those stories, you at least know that it's them they're going, and the language barrier being your sort of, like, one of you thinks you've communicated that you're leaving and the other hasn't understood that's what you meant.
Yes.
And that being, like, a particularly strong rug pull.
Mm.
It's... Because, like, I think Bluey says on that first morning, after realising the friend's not there anymore, why didn't he tell me he was going?
Something along those lines.
Yeah,
yes.
and it's like...
It's quite heartbreaking.
Yeah, it's... Because, like, that's the thing, is, like, yeah, that's the thing, is that kid did try and tell you, and you didn't understand, but your response is to go, is to think that they abandoned you, and that's really sad, and that's a lot to deal with.
And I think also, like, the moment before that, when the other dog's name is Jean-Luc,
Yes.
he says, he's trying to say that this is the last day. And Bluey's like, okay, bye.
Yeah.
And because that clearly hasn't got across, and there's a little bit of, oh.
Yeah, it's there are some really beautiful episodes of this show that are, like, just really well done storytelling.
I quite like the one where the hippie kid is playing mums and dads with one of the others, and they sort of have a bit of a falling out, and then there's, like, a whole thing of wandering around trying to get other people to play with the baby, and it's like, you're not doing it the way I want.
Yeah.
And then eventually going, okay, we've had a break and we're getting back together.
But it's nice as a exploration not only of, like, children picking up gender roles from parents, but also of how different parental situations can give very different impressions of what parental roles are to children.
Yes.
Because it is very much a story of mums do this because that's what my mum does.
Yes.
Well, no, mums do this because that's what my mum does.
Yes.
And trying to apply the universal rules from very limited information.
It kind of reminds me of that TikTok we watched the other week of the kid telling the woman in the bookshop the story about playing house with someone at school, and the girl being like, well, I don't have a dad, so I'm being a mum. I'm sorry, I don't have a mum, so I'm being a dad. And the other one being like, okay, I'll be the mum. And the other kid being like, no, you can't, you're a boy, you have to be the dad.
I think the child hit the other child.
No, he told him to fuck off.
Oh yeah, told him to fuck off, that was it. Yeah, it was a similar vibe.
It was an F-word situation.
It was an F-word situation indeed.
I like the way Bluey has sort of covered stuff like that.
Yeah.
Fuck the BBC, but I do really like Bluey.
Well, it's not originally a BBC show.
It's all tagged with BBC or
so
on the credits.
It's the BBC.
It's Australia.
The
but...
BBC imported it and
Oh, I
handled a
see.
lot of the worldwide distribution. That being said, the BBC. Fuck the BBC particularly on Bluey, because there's entire episodes that don't exist in the BBC version that got cut. The BBC makes a lot of very awkward, like very forced, stilted edits around like really simple things. I was watching a compilation of like stuff that's been changed from the Australian version to the BBC version.
Right.
There's at one point a joke about like Bluey joking about one of her stuffed animals threatening to pee on the curtains, like a little old lady dog, a doll being like, if you don't give me my tea, I'll pee on the curtains. And that gets like overdubbed as I'll scratch up the curtains. Anything that's like body humor related jokes go. There's a lot of removing like farts, or jokes about the toilet, or anything that like, or it just references is like weirdly cut around. There's some other stuff
I
that
wonder
happens
if that's
as well.
BBFC regulations or if that's very specifically the BBC being dicks.
Maybe, but like there's... Oh, what is there? Yeah, there's some like very weird specific edits and cuts that the BBC makes to Bluey. And
Luckily, most of it exists on TikTok.
Indeed. Go down the rabbit hole of learning about the BBC edits. It's genuinely fascinating, like the things that they don't want to present to children that are completely harmless parts of childhood.
Is this all revenge for the Peppa Pig episode with the spider being cut out in Australia?
Maybe.
You won't have our pig spiders.
Yeah. But that was a bunch of Bluey.
That was a bunch of Bluey. I think... we also...
Yes.
We watched Matilda the musical.
We did. What did you think of it?
It's alright.
Yeah. it was an adaptation of Matilda.
Yeah. I liked one of the songs.
There were a couple of the songs I liked. There was a couple that, like, I feel like the song is good, but the recording of it wasn't great.
Right.
Like, there was some cluttered performances that were a little hard to follow.
Do you think this was a case of we've tried to make it bombastic for the screen?
Maybe.
Or just something that didn't necessarily convey well from stage to screen?
Possibly. I don't think... Like, I wanna make this criticism, but I'm also aware that, like, this is a film of largely child actors.
Mm-hmm.
I don't necessarily think that this adaptation's Matilda makes as strong of an impression as a distinct character as the one in the original film. I feel like this Matilda was a list of character traits and not necessarily... And I mean, maybe this is just because it's a musical. There's a lot of saying that a character believes certain things or wants certain things and not a lot of seeing it.
Yeah, and I guess it's got a lot to tell in a short space of time.
Yeah.
While still feeling quite long at the same time.
Yeah. I did enjoy the sort of like... I did enjoy the sort of like slightly dark storytelling sense that this Matilda had, like, as a character had.
Yes, yeah.
And how that was sort of a relating point with adults was really interesting.
Yes.
I think that, who was it who played Miss Trunchbull?
Emma Thompson.
Emma Thompson did a fantastic...
Yep.
I think that is a very hard role to step into because people have such a solid idea of what that character is from its, like, very well-defined first performance. That is tough shoes to step into, and I think Emma Thompson did a really good job of not making it obvious it was Emma Thompson,
Yeah.
having a distinct take on the character that still felt fitting.
Even when I was like, I think I recognise Emma Thompson's voice, I just convinced myself it wasn't her for a good long portion of the film.
Yeah.
And then you looked at, I think you IMDb'd it at one point and went, oh, it's Emma Thompson. I was like, I bloody knew it.
No, I was IMDbing to look up who was playing Miss Honey. I was like, I know I recognise you from something, and then saw that Emma Thompson was like, oh goodness, yeah.
Hang on.
Yeah,
She had a good singing voice.
yes.
She did sing well. I see what you mean about, what's her name? Miranda something? Is it the original child actress?
Yes. The one that
plays the
played...
faceless old woman who secretly lives in the house. Yes. I absolutely get what you mean with regards to maybe not being as strong a role. I feel like the writing had a decent amount to do with that.
Yeah.
Because she did act a little socks off.
Yes. No, that's the thing, is I don't think it's necessarily criticism on the actor. I think that the framing of trying to make a concise length musical,
Yes.
and telling a lot of stories through song that is describing what's happening, kind of necessitates that.
Yeah.
The other bugbear I have with this is that I don't like conceptually I think it's the opening song, A Little Bit Naughty.
Yes.
But I don't like... Because here's the thing. You watch the original Matilda, it is very much presented as adult authority figures will often use their position of authority to basically exact control maliciously over children.
Yes.
And that...
The thing that Danny DeVito sort of mentions that gets hooked onto really heavily is if a person is bad, they deserve to be punished.
Yes, and it's that whole speech that Danny DeVito...
I don't know if that's in the book.
Yes, but I know in the film there is that Danny DeVito speech, which is the, like, I'm smart, you're dumb, I'm big, you're small, there's nothing you can do about it.
Yes.
And, like...
The sense of powerlessness of being a child.
Yeah, and the original film of Matilda is very much about, like, it is morally acceptable to do what you have to I don't know if even the odds is the right term, to make things morally right when authority figures are abusing their authority and expecting you not to fight back. It is morally acceptable for you to fight back in your own small little ways that are ultimately not that harmful, but are you exerting some control in response.
Yes.
And I feel like A Little Bit Naughty presents that behaviour, particularly from Matilda, as that is a naughty, bad thing to do, but like, I'm being a little bit cheeky by doing bad, naughty thing. Like, it really feels like it fails to capture that energy of, I am doing what I can to regain some control in a situation where my parents and teachers have made me feel powerless.
I think that's why I prefer the closing song, Revolting Children.
Yes.
Because it is a perfect... It's a homophone. I fucking love a homophone.
Yeah.
It's... The children are revolting.
Yes.
And from Trunchbull's point of view, they are revolting children.
It's a great one. I wish it didn't refrain back to Little Bit Naughty. I wish it didn't pull... Because again, at the end, it ends on the note of all of the children are now being a little bit naughty, and I'm like, the phrase
They're
little
not.
bit
They're
naughty...
being free and
a little bit,
exerting some control over their lives.
A little bit naughty feels like it really underplays the value and the importance of what they have achieved.
Of questioning an authority.
Yeah, like it is morally right to stand up to unjust authority.
Yes.
And that just because authority tells you it is unanimous doesn't mean you can't prove it wrong.
Yeah.
And I think that's ultimately like the biggest reason why I struggle with this adaptation.
There was a few things I struggled with, and I will get to them in a second. I haven't read the book since I was in primary school, so I couldn't tell you if this was a case of Willy Wonka and the Chocolate Factory versus Charlie and the Chocolate Factory, where there was a bunch of stuff in the Tim Burton Johnny Depp movie that was in the book that wasn't in the original film, that they went, okay, we're going to put it in this way, and... If you are a big fan of the original film and you haven't read the book in a while, you might be like, hey, hang on.
Yeah.
Whereas, and this one, I know the story even less well, because I think I struggled through it once in primary school, didn't go back to it, watched the original film 2 or 3 times, maybe?
Yeah.
And this is the first time I'm sort of coming back to any version of that. I felt, compared to the previous film, that the cast was a lot whiter.
Yeah.
And I realised that this felt very more UK-based.
Yeah.
And you might argue that there is less black population in the countryside of the UK than there is in, I think, is it? Because I swear it's like New York or something in the original film. It's like a city. Because there's a lot of quite built-up buildings and stuff in that.
Yeah,
I could be completely wrong, but I feel like that's...
I feel like you're right. Again, it's been a while.
It has been a really long time. Maybe I'll watch the other one again soon. Yeah. But, so there was that issue. There was also, and I saw someone on TikTok bring this up, the fat kid isn't that fat, and B is wearing padding.
Yes.
Which, as they pointed out, like, you can get away with that on stage because you have to make that character trait, if that is the character trait, play to the very back of the room, way up in the gods.
Exactly.
And you don't need to do that in the film.
Yes.
I was like,
It's the whole thing of Ben, I think his name's Ben Plath, being able to play a teenager in Dear Evan Hansen on the stage, but he is entirely the wrong choice to play it in film.
Yeah.
Like, it's... Yeah, you've got to make different casting choices on film, and that is a really disappointing one of those.
And I think, like, you can make many arguments about, in a stage show, of we need to find somebody who can do all of the singing, all of the dancing, and can do that while wearing this particular outfit.
Yeah.
If you are shooting a film, you have plenty of time between takes.
Yeah.
So if that kid is less fit, perhaps, not necessarily even the case.
Yeah.
But if that kid is bigger, it would be struggling more with like really energetic stuff for long periods of time. You have time between takes to rest and recover.
Yeah.
And kids are only allowed to be on set for so long anyway.
Yes.
And it just felt like you've really like homogenized the cast a bit.
Yeah. But I again, on the other hand, I liked, there are aspects of it I liked. I really liked, there was a song in the middle, when I've grown up, which I thought was very sweet. That sort of got me for a bit. I think the librarian character is really well handled, and I think it's really sweet seeing genuine enthusiasm from an adult in response to a child being creative. I think that's a really sweet dynamic.
I really love that aspect.
Yeah.
And just that whole... the way the two of them acted together, I thought that was really cool, and I almost wanted to see more of... what if the librarian had just gone, hey, I distribute books, what if you write books, we'll go and have cool adventures together.
Yeah.
That could have been
Yeah.
a fun story.
Yeah, they really sold me on this, like, side relationship, and I was very built in on it.
I thought it was really cool.
The child playing Matilda does such a good job of dramatic reading and pacing of story.
Yeah.
Like, the storytelling sections, I was hooked. Like, that is a very
as
well
much as the librarian of like, no,
it's a
don't make me
very
wait till
well-performed
tomorrow.
child.
Yeah.
Like, there were a lot of good things in it. There was that Trunchbull related song with the sort of boot camp.
Yes.
Where that moment where the percussion, percussion quote unquote happens, that's a really smart choice.
Yeah.
Like there was some good things in there.
That's the set design as well. I don't know what building they used, if they built that school, if that is a building that exists. It reminded me so much of my primary school before they redecorated it.
They did a really good job of having it feel like a cohesive space that felt grand in scope without feeling like it was detached. Like it felt like it connected together and was tonally consistent in a way that like they were able to do very stage show type choreography inside a building and still have good range to get the shot.
Yes.
That's very tricky to do.
All the stuff in the canteen felt like I'm guessing that's probably lifted direct from the stage show, because all of that, like, we're just gonna shove benches out of the way and have a big musical number in the middle of it.
Yeah.
Worked so well.
It's always impressive when a movie adaptation of a musical can capture the scope and the feel of stage theatre choreography.
Yeah.
Like, that is so hard to do while feeling like you're in an actual setting and not on a stage, and this did that really well.
And I also think that it, again, regarding the school and the school grounds, it managed to capture that very particular cold spring, damp, wet, grotty, in a way that is very real. Because sometimes that can go way too far.
Yeah.
And just be silly, but it really felt like, hey, I remember going to school in South London and playing rugby in, like, either the arse end of winter or the very beginning of spring when it is frosty on the ground, but also, like, really squashy in places, and going out and doing PE in grass that is mostly mud.
Yeah.
But occasionally you will, like, fall over, and somehow it's rock solid as well.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like that, and again, like, the set design for the inside, just the colours of the walls, the wood panelling in there, a lot of that felt very, very familiar to a place I went to school, and very viscerally, yep, I absolutely get all of this, and yeah.
I'm glad we watched it. I had a lot of things that I found interesting.
Yeah, it's not a musical that I'm desperate to put on again.
No, but I'm glad I saw it, and it definitely had value.
Yeah, oh, absolutely. Like, I love a fucking musical, but I feel like I'm probably going to want to spend... I didn't know much about this to begin with. I'd heard, like, little bits about how it came to be, and I thought that was quite interesting, but I hadn't gone, I'll watch that. I'll go out of my way to watch. I think perhaps because my last few theatre trips to watch musicals have been a bit gash.
Yeah.
So maybe that has put me off a little bit, which is weird, because as a kid I couldn't stop watching fucking musicals.
I still love a good musical.
I think the one recently that's been getting me, that I've been like, I want to watch that, and I'll probably end up watching more at once, is Beetlejuice.
Oh, yeah. Well,
Because that seems like a lot of fun.
if you want to watch that at some point, we can make that happen.
We should do that one.
We should do that.
Yeah.
Of ones we
It's
watched
fine.
somewhat recently, like the SpongeBob SquarePants musical is
That was
surprisingly
brilliant.
fantastic.
Again, I would watch that one. Yeah, I would watch that again.
There's
Soon, in
there's
fact.
one that I'm curious to watch. I keep seeing bits of from TikTok. I think it's called Enter the Hurricane. That is about a group of people a group of teens who get on a roller coaster at like a little local fun fair,
Right.
and it derails.
Oh.
And the musical takes place like they're. My understanding is they're communing with some kind of like afterlife being,
Right.
that is basically getting them to go, why should you be allowed to survive?
Okay.
And it's them all basically between themselves trying to reason why they should get to survive this near-death experience,
Right.
and like contextualizing their lives leading up to this moment and where their lives could be going after.
Okay.
It seems like a really interesting concept, and
Yeah.
I've heard very positive things about it.
Oh.
I need to see if there is a way to watch it from home. I believe so.
Well,
Yeah. You watched anything else?
how watched anything else? I will need to double check. I don't think we've watched a huge amount apart from that. Sorry, go ahead.
Well, I mean, we watched one thing that I'll like very quickly skim through. I'll recommend to people go watch the Pokétoon short. I'll recommend to people go watch the Pokétoon shorts on YouTube.
Oh yeah, we did watch those.
Yeah, which is a collection of like 10 to 15 minute long animated short stories set in the Pokemon universe with different animation styles, different storytelling styles, different genres of story. I won't go through all of them, but very quickly there's one called Help, I've Turned Into a Gengar, about some kids playing around with an urban legend in their school. The Pancham Who Wants to Be a Hero, a story about growing up and wanting to save people but struggling with the changes that will come with growing. Wait for Me, Magikarp, which was a sweet little story about, I think it was completely wordless, about someone's sort of a child's relationship with a Magikarp they find. The Slugma-powered house.
That was sweet.
Yeah, about a house that's powered by a Slugma, and it's definitely really powered by a Slugma, and this little girl desperately wanting to see the Slugma that hides in the walls running the house.
Yeah.
And Jigglypuff's song, about a Jigglypuff that's a little bit messy with a slightly different singing style from the other Jigglypuffs.
It was very sweet.
Generally, just go load up the playlist and watch the whole thing. They may not all be perfect or all for you, but I think it's a really nice little anthology of short stories. What about you?
Watch the latest episode of The Fall of Shadowstone Park.
Ooh.
Episode 7. That is going some places. Absolutely fascinating, and I'm looking forward to more of that. What we watched all of the festive outside Xbox and outside extra stuff.
Oh, the festive Christmas challenge videos.
Yes,
and...
Tournament of Champions and such. Really enjoyed all of those. There was a new breaking news on the College Human channel with Sticky Spaghetti. Always good.
Oh, there was a new Game Changers we watched as well. That pick a number.
Yes, how many?
Yes, how many? There are prompts. You don't know what the prompt is. You commit to a number. If you can do the number related to the prompt, you get point. If not, everyone else get point. It was a fun, chaotic challenge.
Yeah, really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
How have you watched anything else?
I think that'll do for me.
I think that'll do for me.
Well then, time for this.
Laura, got a new sponsor.
Who's our new sponsor?
Well, do you have a birthday that is very near to one of the big holiday events?
I mean, not me, but I do know some people for whom that's a problem.
Yeah, well, what if you had access to this month's sponsor? That's sparemonth.lol.net.
Tell me more.
Well, if your birthday is, say, too close to New Year, for example,
Yeah.
just fit yourself a little spare month. They're very easy to install. Just get them popped on in there, and you'll find there's a good gap. So no more having to worry about, oh, my friends spent all their money over the Easter period, and now they don't have, they can't afford to come out and do anything for my birthday, or they can't afford the bus fare to come and see me. We can just all hang out together. We've got that extra month buffer now.
Oh,
We get a little bit of pay, and we can all
Wonderful.
hang out and play board games at home, and maybe even get some cake. Who knows? And people won't be too exhausted from all the previous partying.
That sounds absolutely delightful.
Indeed. So that's sparemonth.lol.net. Enter the code Q&PS, and then just 3 random numbers of your choice, because it's been 2 weeks and I've forgotten what number we're on.
I mean, it's New Year. It's New Year. That happens.
I know we're getting very close to 250. Ooh. So yeah, go do that. Get some money off your first spare month. Don't install too many. You might find that your holiday year takes a while to cycle back
Oh
in.
no.
Inside the boardroom of Supremacy Software.
Hi.
Hi.
So, I've been trying to come up with some cost-saving measures.
Right.
Because we spend money making games, and then people spend money buying our games.
Yeah.
And then at some point, there is a game out there, and not many people are buying it, but it still exists.
Yeah.
So, like...
But as long as people are still buying it, right?
Well, I mean, yes, but, like, look, I've been looking at some of the live service stuff we've been trying to do.
Oh, right. Yeah.
And here's the problem.
Yeah.
We release a live service game. There's
Yep.
like 6 months maybe in which like lots of people are playing it.
Yeah.
And
then
then we-
DLC.
Yeah, we've promised like roadmap.
Yeah,
But
we
problem
gotta
is-
maybe finish the game we said we were gonna give them in the first
Yeah.
place, right?
But like
Yeah.
the problem is every time we release more content, we
Right.
get a little burst of
Yeah.
new money, but each time it's less.
Yeah.
And like at a certain point, we're making new content, and like we're making money, but we're not making all the money.
Right. So we stop making new content.
Well, yeah. My thought is that like rather than make the roadmap, we just make like a year or so of the roadmap, and then just like cancel it and make a new one, because we'll get more money from like the big burst at the start of a new live service than we will from supporting the old one.
Right. So we just make a new game every year, but basically it's the same thing
Yeah,
because
so
we know how to do that, right?
yeah, exactly. So what I'm thinking is,
Right.
there's like 5 live services we have right now.
Right.
Yeah, we just cancel them all.
Gone.
Yeah, like we give them like maybe 3-4 days notice to be like spend your digital currency now, or
Yeah, get those Ionium coins right
yeah,
out there.
or it's gone forever.
Right.
If you want to have that, the game will still be playable locally for just you. So, like, I guess if there's that character you've always wanted, this is your last chance to buy the Ionium gems to get the character.
Right, yeah, you got a chance to complete this. If you're a completionist, this is your
Yeah,
last chance.
It is the ultimate time-limited FOMO for cosmetics, is the literal game's going away in 72 hours. Go!
You know what I always say? FOMO. Mo the FOMO.
Exactly.
Yeah. You are a fucking genius.
I know.
What happened to the coffee drone?
Yeah, we'll have a new one soon.
Cool. So, what have you put in your ears?
Not a lot of new stuff. It's been a lot of,
No.
like, background music while we do gaming with people.
Yes, it has been a lot of that, and time away from podcasts because I didn't need to be distracted from things. Cause...
And then coming back to work and putting background music on with no words because I gotta jump back into work mode.
Mhm.
It's really not been a lot of new stuff. Like, it's been a lot of, like, I think we listened to the Worms soundtrack a bit.
Yeah, we listen to. There is an Everdell ambient background mix that we listen to pretty much every time we play Everdell. We listen to. I put on a bunch of random tracks for ambience while we did the D&D. So we had ambient music, Desolation on the Modern Spirit channel, RPG Battle Combat music on the Kappa channel, Relaxing Nature Ambience Meditation Calming Summer Healing Forces on the Healing Nature and Meditation channel, 1 Hour Epic Boss Battle Music 2001 by E.K. Mule, Dark Forest Ambience and Music Sounds of Dark Misty Forest with ambient music on Martyr's Muses, Relaxing Nature Ambience Meditation Good Morning Spring Nature also on the Healing Nature and Meditation, Immortal Intense Dramatic Battle Most Powerful Epic Music Mix on Epic Music Empire, Enchanted Forest Walk Music and Ambience on the Vault of Ambience, and Victory Best Epic Music of 2017 Famous Artists Part 5 on the Epic Music channel (EMC), which was all of the things basically to fill in the background of that. And then we
Yeah.
put the Interstellar soundtrack on while we played Terraforming Mars.
Oh, we did. Yeah.
You got any others, or shall I just keep going?
Not really. Feel free to keep going.
Cool. We listened to Cardoc, The Night Train, because it was UEDP. So we got the Trance Classics out again. Speaking of which, the Trance Classics CD1, which I think is a Ministry of Sound CD, on I Love Music. Then we listened to Antar Ranga Psytrance Mix 2018 on Rhythm D. We listened to that Chill Step Mix 2018 2 hours on Mixhound channel.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Again?
Yeah, we did.
We listened to, or most of, Agni Sutra Psytrance Mix 2017. The artwork of which we said that it looked like the Borg Queen had fuck off I'm dancing face.
It's the Borg Queen who's like really kind of focused on a Sudoku and like, I'm really not getting it.
And I went out to get a drink, and when I came back, you and one of our friends were just looking at each other like, what the fuck just happened?
You left the room for like 30 seconds, and it's one of those things where like you're listening to some like electronic music, and suddenly the instead
Here's a
of
clip
being
from a movie or a speech or something.
Instead of being optimistic about free will, it was something to the effect of, oh, free will's great, free will's wonderful. You know what free will got us? Fascism and World War One and the Gulf War, and it's like,
okay, I'm just going to change this mix just in case it happens again.
I'm just trying to dance.
Just want to have a nice dance with my friends. Yeah. We also listened to Chill Step Mix 2020, 2 hours, also on the Mixhound channel, also with artwork by T1NA.
Yeah.
Yay! Yeah, that was good. We listened to the Worms Armageddon soundtrack, the Worms 2 soundtrack, the Warcraft 2 Tides of Darkness soundtrack, Aesthetic Song Adventure Time Lo-Fi Witches Only Lo-Fi Calm Chill Beats on the Lo-Fi Chill Music channel. And, this was really lovely. Breath of the Night, Asian-inspired lo-fi beats on the Dream Hop Music channel.
Oh, yeah.
It has that cute little bunny spirit thing sipping tea on a rooftop. That was just really nice chill music while we sat here and did secret D&D prep stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's pretty much everything.
Well then, time for this.
Inside the HR department of Supremacy Software. So you're leaving?
Yes. That was the plan.
It's going to be a terrible blow for the board. I know you've been invaluable to Edwin. He said how useful you've been.
Well, I've been trying my best to keep on top of everything.
Okay, and you've updated the manual for the person who will replace you?
Yes, I want to make sure that my replacement is able to avoid as many potential pitfalls as possible.
Indeed, we want the transition to be extra smooth, and I'm sure you'll be a vital part of that. So, yes, let me have a look through here. All the pages freshly laminated. The drinks order list are up to date. Okay, that all seems to be in order. Now, we are just going to have to fully search you, just to make sure you don't have any company property. Would you just like to step over here with security?
Are you sure you're allowed to do that?
I'm allowed to do that. I'm fully trained.
Uh-huh. Okay.
No struggling, miss, or we'll have to mace you.
I'm definitely not struggling. I'm just wasn't expecting to get undressed at all in the office today.
That company lint you have on your...
It's lint. It could just as easily be from my dryer at home.
Well, I'm glad we managed to retrieve this before you departed with any potential company property. Okay, and you've handed in your security badge?
Yes, I have.
You've made sure to clear off anything that you might have at home. We're not going to have to send a security team to
No, indeed.
search your apartment.
No, indeed, yes.
Right, okay. You've signed the latest version of the NDA.
Yes.
And the non-disparagement agreement.
Yes.
And you've agreed that you'll never speak about anything you saw or heard from Rick or Chad or Edwin.
Yes.
And you've had a full afternoon with the legal department.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I suppose that will be everything then. It will be terrible to see you go, but I'm sure your replacement will fill in wonderfully.
Good luck to them.
Security, I'd like to report an intruder in the building. They didn't seem to have a security pass on them. They certainly don't work here.
welcome everyone. I would ask members of the press to keep your questions sort of held until the end of this press conference. As you are well aware, the field of AI research has been sort of exploding in notoriety as of late, and we have a very exciting development in the field that we would like to talk about today. We have been working on some fascinating new technology developed to detect AI and scalper bots, etc., to sort of reduce malicious automation on the internet and things like using AI to write phishing scams and this sort of thing. And we think we've finally come up with a foolproof solution. Captures of text-image detection, thing of the past. Detecting where your mouse moved on the page before you click the capture. No longer, the sort of done thing. This is the new hotness. This is going to revolutionize the field. I think it's finally time to reveal. Alright, so we have, you'll see up here this web page, and we've tasked a screen reading AI to attempt to navigate through the page, and as it sort of gets to the capture, you will see the prompt it's given. Please draw a hand with the correct number of fingers. As you can see, it's having an awful lot of trouble. Nope, that's too few. That's far too many. I don't think those are even fingers. So I think you will agree. AI technology will never be able to overcome this hurdle, and I think we have solved AI security forever. AI is fixed.
How does the capture know what the correct number of fingers looks like?
Oh, fuck.
Do you know what I want to see more of?
What do you want to see more of?
Racial Justice Warriors.
Racial Justice Warriors?
Yeah.
Alright, Larry.
Right, Barry, how you doing?
Oh, doing my best,
Yeah, I get you.
The new year, basically the same as last year, but currently
Yeah.
colder and wetter than it was.
Oh, yeah.
Recently.
I think that's been the case for everyone a little bit.
Yeah, a little bit. Did you have a nice UDP?
Oh, I had a lovely one, very restful.
Excellent, yeah.
Other than having to chase up the landlord.
Oh, bloody parasites,
Oh,
they're literal
absolutely.
worst.
Yeah,
I've had trouble with mine as well.
Yeah, what's been going on with yours?
Well, the shower hasn't worked properly since I
Yeah.
moved in 4 years ago, and they are still dragging their feet on that rather, which wouldn't be a problem, but the bath has, stopped working as well, so a little bit out of washing facilities at the moment.
Less than ideal, yeah.
Yeah, they did at one point suggest that I get into the kitchen sink, but given that there's a problem with the work unit in there as well,
Well, exactly.
that has proved a problem, and I am quite burly, as you know.
Exactly. Well, I've been having troubles with the electricals, they haven't been fixed for ages.
No.
Now with the woodwork and with tiling, it's just problem after problem that.
And they have the gall to increase the rent.
Yeah, exactly. But it's just got me thinking about, of the many frustrating things about landlords, and believe me, there are many frustrating things about landlords. The one that I've been thinking about is how frustrating it is the lack of consequence for dragged heels on a job that is essentially sit around and get paid for already having money. It's as a landlord, you are having your properties, mortgage paid off plus extra for zero output on your behalf. Like entirely, it is profit and financial benefit for you. But the understood contract of that is that in exchange, you are responsible for fixing things when they come up. Your tenants are literally not allowed to do these things themselves because it is not their property. And, I understand, when you work through like letting agents and stuff, that they have to get approval from the landlord before they can go ahead with stuff, but it feels like there should be a certain degree of time that they have in which to respond and to deal with these things before someone steps in and goes, there are consequences of some kind for you repeatedly ignoring the needs of your tenant's property.
Is supposed to be the one advantage of renting over owning your own place, that the actual maintenance of the building, your roofs, your drainage and stuff like that. That's not.
You
your
don't have to worry
responsibility.
about it. It's not
Exactly.
your problem. It is someone else's property. So if there are repairs to be done, it's up to them to do them.
Yeah, it's fine right up until the point that something quite major goes wrong, and then they can't be bothered to deal with it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are plenty of tenants who will put up with a little bit here and there, as long as it's not, making everything uninhabitable.
I've certainly put up with some stuff at my place that is very livable with, but frustrating. But it's when you start getting to the I cannot live day-to-day life in this property, or am at risk of in the future not being able to because of you ignoring problems.
Yeah, and it's moving's stressful anyway, and I imagine a lot of landlords probably bang on that sort of thing. But then you've got the issue of. I suppose if the problem is that they're not willing to pay the bare minimum to actually deal with the problems, eventually those tenants might just leave. But obviously then you've got the whole issue of I've got to come up with a deposit. I've got to actually. Go to the effort of moving, because that's the huge effort to deal with, especially if you've got a decent amount of furniture and stuff like that.
I mean, you'd hope that they'd want to do those repairs purely because that property is theirs. They own it, and it's their long-term investment, and they're screwing themselves over if they don't do those repairs.
I mean, ultimately, if you make the property uninhabitable, in such a way that people are going to keep having this same problem, then it becomes a way worse deal, generally speaking.
It doesn't matter how many people, move out and you just get someone else in. If they're going to repeat the same cycle because, your roof fell in or whatever.
Yeah, or especially
fell through the floor.
If the roof, completely caves in at that point because you haven't bothered to do even basic maintenance.
Yeah.
Or, you've got an ongoing leak that's just led to mould in the property.
It's going to cost you more in the long run.
Well, exactly. You can do the typical landlord thing of, I very quickly repapered that wall, repainted it, and got a new tenant in. That might be fine, but then you've got the real issue of the fact that it's going to come back almost immediately. You're going to be spending money on dealing with putting that right every time, even though it might be quite a small amount. You've then potentially got time where you're not actually renting the property out. And, if it is something like a roofing issue, that you're probably going to be months at a time where you can't rent it out because the underlying problems are so vast and ongoing. At which point, you're then responsible for the council tax and all the other ongoing bills there, and probably the electricity if you're trying to keep it dry enough to just not completely rot.
Exactly.
Bloody parasites, they
bloody
are, every one of
parasites
them.
indeed.
Well, how's it, mate?
Oh, yeah.
Well, first one of the new year.
Yeah.
Good old, mate, good old.
Good.
Right, I think I'm going to pop the kettle on.
Oh, sounds like a plan.
Nice.
So, Laura,
Me?
what are you advertising? What you got?
What am I advertising at the moment? Well, Who Hunts the Whales coming out on February 16th. That's so soon.
So soon.
If you want to get a signed copy, by the time you hear this, you might still be able to get a signed copy by going to unbound.com/books/whale.
Yeah.
If not, look forward to February 16th. It's going to be out. It's going to be out so soon.
Yeah.
Other than that, find me at basically everywhere at Laura K. Buzz. On YouTube, if you're listening to this when it goes up, for everyone not early on Patreon, there'll be a new episode of Accessibility, which will be about accessibility standards that the video game industry should really be looking at trying to standardize in 2023. Other than that, I have some cool stuff coming soon. Look forward to that. What about you?
What about me? Well, I'm in all the usual places. linkter.ee/Janiac, JANEIAC. My most important one is patreon.com/stonedmonkeyradio. It helps me find the motivation to keep editing podcasts. And do all the other things, since all the other work seems to have dried up at the moment. Thank you for keeping the heating on most of the time. Well, for an hour a day. But, enough to not freeze to death. Yeah. What Will you sing us out, please, darling?
Well, until next time, be a stranger.